Now, did you and King meet before the war, obviously?
Yeah.
Because I noticed in your memoir that you'd seen each other at Penn Station.
Yeah, that's right.
In that, yeah.
I was a senior at Syracuse University, and his sister was a sorority sister.
Oh, okay.
She had already graduated, but she knew me, and she called and said, "My brother's coming. My brother's here, and could you find somebody else, and you have a blind date." So that's how we met.
Wow.
Aww.
Was he still in college too at that point?
No, he had finished. He was working in insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So did you all correspond during the war? Yeah. Even though he was in the Pacific and
we were like opposite sides of the globe.
Yeah, you really were.
Yeah.
Completely opposite, Hawaii to Cairo.
Yeah.
Wow. Such amazing. I was so taken with your memoir, because it was such a different time in the time of the world. Yeah. And I know that, I was saying to Amelia, I know that you and Betsy both have a real heart for the Palestinians.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I wondered about whether there were some roots going all the way back to spending those time with Arabs when you were in Cairo all those years ago. You know, it's you spent a lot of time with different folks from throughout the Middle East when you were there.
I can remember it was when really the war was over.
Right.
And there were boatloads of Jewish immigrants coming back to Palestine, or
what was then still Palestine, right? They were
going to take it.
They're coming to start the state of Israel.
Yeah, that's right, to start the state, yeah.
Amazing to think that in your lifetime, while you were there was no modern state of Israel at all.
No, it wasn't. It was all Palestine.
Right.
And it was,
wow.
It was an interesting place to visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know it.
Yeah.
We.
Now, were you raised in the Presbyterian church?
Yeah.
Okay. In Baltimore.
Yeah.
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 What were your early years like church-wise?
Well, we went to that Presbyterian church, and they had a very active youth group. Those days, churches all had very active youth groups.
Yes, absolutely.
And I always went to that Sunday evening. And it was, we did plays and we did all sorts of things, and it was an important part of my life growing up. Yeah, I could walk to church and
Sounds like the so-called dramatic arts were part of your life from pretty early on. It sounds like being in plays and putting on plays. And, How did that? Were you just always drawn to that, to the theater?
I think so.
Yeah.
I used to play with other gals in my neighborhood. We'd put on little shows, and we would act it out ourselves.
Nice.
We love to act out being grown up.
Of course.
Probably also, that was in the era of the Andy Hardy movies with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland putting on plays in the movie. Remember those? Remember those movies? Yeah. They say, "Hey kids, let's put on a play," and you go in the barn, and all of a sudden there'd be musicians and dancers and singers.
My mother sent us all to elocution. So that was standing up in front of people, having memorized a poem or something like that.
Right.
So I really took to that. So that was the first.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, let's see, high school, we did plays. And so then, I don't know whether I mentioned it, but Syracuse had a pretty strong drama department.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you learn not only about acting, but also about producing and all
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff there.
yeah, the whole,
Directing,
yeah, the
yeah.
whole thing, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
And then there were one summer I did a project with, I was in a play with a local summer theater group, yeah,
Huh,
yeah.
nice.
I just always loved doing that.
Yeah, well, they certainly drew on that when you got into the wax. You know, they drew on your drama
Oh, yes,
background
yeah.
in the Army.
They did.
Yeah,
The-
yeah.
The university, American University in Concord.
Yes,
Yeah.
American University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know I started the clown troupe here.
Yes,
Yeah.
you knew that, right?
I did.
Yeah.
How did you know?
You told me.
Yeah.
Are you all still clowning around?
Well, there is a group,
Mm-hmm.
but they're limited to just visit the health center here
Mhm.
and the hospital.
Oh,
So
okay.
Okay.
they just do those.
Yeah,
those-
it's a wonderful ministry.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did that sort of, for you, come out of some of your theater background in a way?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
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 So I wrote this up. I'll read it to you. When my husband and I moved to Havenwood Heritage Heights, a continuing care retirement community in Concord, New Hampshire, I wondered if any of the residents would want to be clowns.
Of course you wondered that.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to do that?
I had started one in the Berkshires. No, you read.
Okay.
Was it? No, it wasn't in that.
No, that just came up to the end of the war.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But I went to a UCC, Massachusetts annual meeting at Mount Holyoke.
Oh, yeah?
Way back in those days.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they had a workshop on clown ministry. I never heard of it. So I signed up right away and went to it. And I heard about clown ministry and a book on clowning. I've forgotten the name of the author, but it's all the things you needed to know to start a clown ministry. And Lloyd Schaefer was his name. He had a book on it, so I bought the book right off. And then we were living in the Berkshires, Sheffield, Massachusetts, and I just wondered who would want to be a clown. So I finally took the bull by the horns and put an announcement in the church paper. Anyone who'd like to be a clown, meet me Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at the church. So 4 women showed up. So we had enough to start a clown troupe. And
Wow.
so we had the book, and it had all
Right.
instructions: how to make up, where to buy good makeup, real
Yeah, real clown.
theater
Yeah,
makeup.
yeah,
Don't go to the drugstore and just
yeah. Right, right.
And so we started out and did it there for, I don't know, 10 years. I
Wow.
guess.
Wonderful.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, when I moved here, at the first residents meeting, they had new residents speak up. So I said, "My name is Sally Kelly, and I'm a clown." I didn't say anything more. And then a woman who was in charge of the New Year's Eve party asked me if I'd do something. So after thinking it over, I said, okay, I will. So I had this act, which I had done in the Berkshires.
Oh,
Oh, no. So, yeah, when I moved here. So I had this act of becoming a clown in front of everybody. So I put on a clown. I was Gus, the hobo.
right.
So I put on everything. First I put on my makeup, and then I would pull on some pants and
Right.
my ragged jacket and
Right.
the other thing.
Right.
And so they had never seen anyone do that before.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, this isn't going over. But then a man in the back said, what did he say? I said, how am I doing? He said, looks like you, oh darn, I can't think exactly what he said. But anyway, he said something. So then I knew that they were all watching and that had their attention.
Yeah.
Great.
They had never seen anyone do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So coming here, I put a notice in the news and previews, anyone who wants to be the clown, meet me at a certain time. And 8 residents showed up.
Wow.
These were people in their 70s and 80s. One woman was 91, and I was 83 at the time. So we were off and running as a clown ministry troupe, which we later named the Joyful Joeys. We came down to First Church.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I remember that.
You do?
I do, absolutely.
Oh, God. So
That's great.
we used to have laughter clinics. And we would test funny bones. we would dispense hugs.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so
That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
we had 10 members, 10 clowns, as well as 2 local independent clowns, and a 97-year-old pianist who is a resident of this community, who enjoyed accompanying us with her Scott Joplin tunes.
Wow.
Oh.
We all love being clowns. It adds a happy dimension to our lives.
Yeah.
Our children and grandchildren brag about us.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Me too.
Now, has Jack ever seen you as a clown?
No.
No.
He hasn't.
Wow. I think Jack probably should see you as a clown.
I've retired.
There's no more clowning.
No more.
No more makeup, no more.
The last time I did it was a visit to the health services. And I'm a hobo. So I have like a heavy, it's a wool man's suit.
Oh.
Wow.
And I could hardly make it back to my room, so that was the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stole a lot of wonderful memories, though,
Yeah.
from having done it.
Yeah.
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 That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but one of the earliest memories I have of regular clowning was that each week on his show, Red Skelton,
Oh, yeah.
one of his characters was a clown.
That's right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was a sad clown.
Was he hobo?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was so poignant. And I think many Americans who never would have otherwise seen clowning
Absolutely.
did
Yeah.
through Red Skelton.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Because it can be funny and sad both. You know, it
Yeah.
can get all the human emotions.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's
yeah.
really
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah.
That's good.
When did you all move from the New York area to the Berkshires
Yes.
when you retired? Is that?
No, we moved there when our children were young. I mean, we didn't actually move there. That's a story. I'll make it short. But my husband, you remember King?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And he had always had this idea in his mind to buy property when it was reasonable. And of course, during the Depression and that time, it was. He lived in Albany, New York, and he
Okay.
would get the New York Times, and he would see property for sale in Vermont for next to nothing.
Right.
So he was on the alert for that, and he was laid up in the hospital with a strained knee, and so while he was there, he was looking through some brochures of property for sale, and he came across this one well, no, that's not the way it was. We decided, we were living in Levittown. You ever heard of Levittown?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were going up to Vermont to look at some property. And we have 2 little children. And we stop in Sheffield, Massachusetts at his sister's house. And she says, you know, there's a place for sale up on the mountain. And I think you'd be interested. So the next morning, instead of going to Vermont, we went up the mountain there.
Wow.
And saw this Cape Cod house set back from the road, and it had 3 barns, and
Wow.
it was it was quite a place. And so we went in. We said, "Oh, that's going to be too much for us." But we went in and talked to the people. They were Quakers from Long Island, and awfully nice. And they took us all around the fields and the woods and the raspberry patch. And so we thanked them, got back in the car. We said, we can't afford what they're asking. So when we got home, fortunately, we had a friend who was in the real estate business. So we told her how we fell in love with this place, but it was too much. And she said, well, figure up what you can afford on monthly payments. You borrow something from the bank and then monthly payments, she said. And make an offer. She said, there's no law against it. So we figured it up and called them back, and we made this ridiculous offer. And 2 days later, they called back and accepted it.
Wow.
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 So that's how we got a 200-acre
Wow.
farmhouse. And then 2 days after that, they called up and said, our children have taken any furniture, anything in the house that they want. So for another couple thousand, would you like all the furnishings?
Of course.
Oh gosh. So we are living in Levittown. You ever heard of Levittown?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Which was built like before and after World War II.
Right after.
Right after, because it was one of the first sort of planned communities.
That's right. That's
ever.
right. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, so we drove up there soon after this offer had been accepted, and it was completely furnished.
Wow.
Wow.
So did you go up there on summer vacations,
Yes.
that kind of thing?
You
went up with the kids in the
yeah,
summer?
the first summer, we were, as I said, living on Long Island, which was brutal in the summer.
Yeah.
And so we went up for 2 weeks, King's Vacation. Then the next summer, I said, why don't I just stay and you come up?
Right. Come up when you can.
So we did that, and it was the children never ever said, I don't want to go. I mean, they loved it.
Yeah, of course.
We had walks in the woods.
Oh my gosh.
We had these fields, and the farmers would hay the fields, and that was fun. And we had great places to swim in the Berkshires there, and it was great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And then so when we moved up here, son Jim bought our house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that all worked out.
Still in the family.
Still in the family.
Yeah, and he's not that far away, so you probably get to see family down there some.
Yeah.
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 That's great. That's great. Well, I don't know. I think anybody that's ever met you always associates you with having this really positive spirit. You know, I mean, and have you? Is that always the way you've been? I mean, every life has sorrows and challenges, but you just seem to have such a positive outlook always.
I don't know.
Just always the way you've been.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you certainly also have, you and Betsy both have a very open heart for all those in the world who who are mistreated or oppressed or suffer or are treated unjustly. I know that those ministries to people in those situations has also been on your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a very interesting experience. One time King was on the mission committee at our church, and a visiting young Indian man from India was here at Andover Newton, and he was in the summer. He was available to visit the churches. So we had him overnight. He was going to be at a family night supper, and so when he left, he wrote back to us, and then we wrote to him, and for 20 years we wrote back and forth.
Wow.
So then King and I are going to, he said to me, it was our 50th wedding anniversary, and he said, "Don't you think we should take a trip to celebrate?" I said, "Oh, yes." So he said, where do you think you'd like to go? And I thought, well, off the top of my head, well, we've never been to the Grand Canyon. Maybe we could go to that part of the country. We've been other parts. Where would you like to go? And he said, India.
Wow. Wow.
So we planned this 3-week trip to India.
Goodness.
Wow.
It was just wonderful.
Wow.
And so we went to see Sudhakar, and we spent a week with him, and he took us around to all his projects. He was supported partially by the UCC here, and he had a meeting of the shepherds. They had a program over there where they'd give a lamb to a shepherd, and then when that lamb grew up and it produced other lambs, they'd give it back, and he would give it to somebody else. It was a rotating kind of thing. And we went to all the different places where he was helping, like educate a young girl. And at the mission station, they had us visit the classrooms. You know, the children all sit on the floor over there, and they sort of by rote they answer questions. It was wonderful, and we had a wonderful experience doing that.
Yeah.
And then we got on a train, overnight train, and went up to New Delhi and had a trip and saw the Taj Mahal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was 80.
Wow.
And I was 75.
But you clearly enjoyed yourself.
Oh, we had a wonderful experience. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've been at Haywood Heritage Heights for well over 10 years.
Yeah.
You've been here quite a while.
I've been here 15.
15.
I'm on the 15th. Yeah.
Goodness, yeah. Have you always been in the lodge, or did you live in,
We lived up at Heritage Heights.
in Heritage Heights at first?
Yeah. And then King had a fall,
Right.
and had to go to the health services, and he stayed there the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a good thing we were here.
It was.
Yeah.
Because you could still, be close. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, he was a wonderful man.
He was. I
Yeah,
know it.
sweet man. Yeah. Very tender-hearted.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
really felt things deeply for people.
I know it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been wonderful having Betsy, even though she isn't a member of our church, because of you, to have Betsy be in our community a lot.
Yeah.
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 It's been great.
It's been great. I know it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
And then the other night, they have Jack.
I know. This little great grandson.
He's so cute.
He is so cute.
I know it.
Wow. Yeah.
He doesn't know it, thank goodness.
Yeah. I saw a video of him when he was not even 3 playing his drums. You know,
Oh,
he was-
Mm.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
When he first came over here, he was like 2, and he said, "I want to meet everybody."
Oh.
So Betsy and I took him over to all the tables at dinner time, and he went like this to everybody. He didn't say anything, he just. But then, when he was 3, he didn't want to come.
Mm.
Yeah.
Shy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, I heard the story from Betsy about, you know, he hero worships our drummer, Eddie.
Yeah.
And I guess she was going to take him to a jazz sanctuary to actually meet Eddie.
Yeah.
And he came here first for dinner or whatever.
Oh,
and she
that's
literally,
right.
he wouldn't get out of the car. I think he was so nervous about meeting his hero, he couldn't even go in. But he did well on Friday night.
He did. Yeah.
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 I asked him afterward if he thought Eddie did a good job in the concert, and Jack said, "Eddie did a great job."
I was worried about him sitting on the front row there with his ears.
His mom had his
I know.
ears covered up. I think he could still hear though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No problem.
He didn't object to her holding his ears.
No.
No.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. Four generations of your family right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I always ask people whether they have any particular wishes for or advice or observations about our church, because you've been with us for quite a while now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything come to mind in that regard?
I wish more people would come.
Yeah, that's pretty universal sentiment that we hear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of First Church people here at Havenwood.
Yes, they are.
It's sort of
Yeah.
an outpost of First Church here.
I bring them all sermons and bulletins every
Oh,
Sunday.
that's
Which is so
wonderful.
great.
Yeah, I think it's 7 now. It's getting less.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're the contact for prayer concerns, I know, and that's also so wonderful.
Well,
We have a long list of people in our bulletin every week.
yeah. I don't have anything to do with that though.
Anymore. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one calls me anymore for the
prayer
instant
circle.
prayers. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you might as well just take it out of the,
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Someone a couple months ago called. Never heard it. It must have been a visitor in church one Sunday. No one knew anything about them,
Oh,
and so we did circulate that. And
nice.
yeah, so
Yeah.
That's
No.
neat.
Yeah. We're having occasionally, somebody will come that we haven't seen before, and it's always nice.
yeah.
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 And we're getting a lot of people that aren't necessarily members at Jazz Sanctuary.
Oh, I know what. That's good.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very good thing we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, you're doing.
Well, part of your spirit, I think, and I got that from reading a memoir about, your time in the Women's Army Corps.
Yeah.
Is you've always been open to new things. I mean, you did so many things, so
Oh
many
my
adventures
gosh.
that you had,
Yeah.
just because you were open,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you still are open. Anybody that comes to Jazz Sanctuary when they're 97 has to be open.
I agree.
Oh, that's great. Oh. Yeah. So,
Well, we're so blessed to have Yeah. And there's so many things that you do that, little things that go unnoticed. I know often you've transported other folks from Havenwood to worship when you drove and brought people, and you've just done so many things like that.
Yeah.
That you just do just automatically.
I don't know.
It's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And Kathy, so our video camera has the ability to not only video but take a photograph.
Yeah.
And Kathy has asked if we could take your picture so we can have it in the assembly room as well. Would that be okay? Even just where you're sitting is fine.
I did want to tell you about Ben.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Rubel, who went to the University of Wisconsin. He lived our daughter Barb lived in Minneapolis. So he went to the University of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And he rowed there. So he was on the Wisconsin rowing team.
Wow.
And they often came to Boston to row on the Charles.
So the head of the Charles
Head of the
forgot it,
Charles,
probably.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so then he was recruited to row for Cambridge in England, which would be against Oxford
Right.
on the Thames.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
It's sort of the premier rowing event of the world.
I know, so he was in Cambridge for 3 years.
Wow.
And rowed there. And then he came back and he was recruited to row in, it's not an Olympic year, but
Okay.
it's the World Rowing Championships
Wow.
in Sarasota, Florida. So this is a picture. He rowed in the men's 4 without coxswain, Ben Rubel. So he's just the nicest young man.
You can put that
Oh,
on the
wow.
camera.
I can try. Yeah, here we go. Ready? Let's see if I can do this. There he is.
Wow.
And so he's
Ben Rubel.
Ben Rubel.
There you go.
It's just plain Ben, not Benjamin.
Just, okay. Just
U.S.
Ben.
Rowing Training Center. Yeah. So there's
So he had like 5 weeks off. I imagine that felt really good. And he started a new job and he's doing computer science for a company in Madison. And but he's going back to rowing, and I think he's hoping to keep it up till the Olympics.
great. It's a very demanding sport.
Yeah.
Physically, it's incredible.
Did you ever row?
I didn't. It wasn't something. I grew up in Ohio. It wasn't something that anybody did there. But
Yeah.
since I've been in Concord over the last maybe 15 years, 15 to 20 years, in high school, there gradually developed a rowing club that now is quite competitive, and so there's now all kinds of kids in the Concord area that have become rowers. They row. They have a facility on the Merrimack that they train from, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Mike was coached them for a while. Mike Sheehan in the Concord section.
Okay.
Was the coach for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's become quite a big deal in these parts.
Yeah. I think the Concord 8 has gone down to the head of the Charles.
They have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something.
Yeah, that's very
It's wonderful because, among other things, you talk about a team sport. I mean, the coordination required to function as a team is just phenomenal.
Yeah.